All eyes are on Hurricane Hilary, a historic storm with Southern California projected in its path. Hilary has weakened to a Category 3 hurricane, turning towards Baja California. However, the storm will weaken even more before entering Southern California. The bottom line is that this will bring life-threatening flooding conditions, no matter what the strength of this when it moves in.
Exactly, and we're still dealing with this tropical storm warning. You can see this for all the areas there shaded in that red coloring, and it goes far inland as well.
Of course, we have crews on the ground in Southern California. Our Paul Goodlow is standing by in San Diego. And Paul, there's no experience for this. Right. The last time we saw a tropical storm in this area was 1939. It predates many people being alive in Southern California. And think about how much has changed since 1939. How many fires we've had, how much urban development. I mean, this is unprecedented.
And I guess urban sprawl, another kind of word for what's happened in this almost 84 years last time we had something like this move this way. And there's no local experience for tropical weather like this, but there's people from other parts of the world have come here. I talked to a woman yesterday who said, well, I moved from Florida to get away from these tropical threats, and now she has one in her backyard. We'll be dealing with this as really starting later today. The first rain bands start moving in, but in earnest throughout the day on Sunday, with that center coming throughout the day. Right now, the National Hurricane Center is forecasting this to still be a tropical storm as it moves into Southern California. Welcome back to Weekend Recharge. I'm meteorologist Paul Goodlow, and yes, I'm in Southern California, technically on Coronado Island here in San Diego County, dealing with, a landfalling tropical system here on the West Coast, the first time in nearly 84 years. Also back in the studio in Atlanta, we have Molly McCullum and Lynette Charles. And guys, this isn't the only thing we're watching in the tropics. We have something brewing that could bring tropical impacts in the Gulf Coast, as well as other things we're keeping an eye on in the Atlantic. We flipped that calendar into mid to late August. The tropics have responded quickly in terms of giving us a lot of things to worry about, not only there, but even here in Southern California.
And Southern California is where we want to start. And this is going to be widespread flooding impacts. We'll get to that in a minute. But where is Hilary right now? We take you down to Cabo San Lucas.
Exactly. And let's go back to yesterday, because this is where Hilary began making a gloomy grand entrance. We had those dark skies out there. Of course, we had the rain, the rough surf, and that just really set the stage for what's to come. Today, it's going to get a little worse, and then tomorrow, we're going to really be in the thick of things. This morning, though, the conditions, they have intensified as powerful hurricane continues tracking northwest. Places like Tijuana, Mexico, are bracing for life-threatening wind. We'll have the waves, catastrophic rain across the southwest. You name it, we got it. And tropical alerts, including hurricane watches, are holding firm across Baja California. Molly, this thing is a doozy for something that people really are not used to.
Not at all. This is not what you think of when you think of Southern California weather. Lynette just mentioned Baja California. That's likely where this will make landfall and then continue on into Southern California. The worst of the hurricane conditions for Baja California. This is expected to weaken, but I don't even like to use the word weaken. Yes, it will likely only be a tropical storm or a tropical depression, but all of this moisture is still going to move into Southern California. That is the biggest concern. The rain, the flash flooding. What we have in Southern California right now and over towards Arizona, this is more monsoon moisture that's moving through, and it has prompted a few flash flood warnings already this morning. This one across the I-10 corridor for Imperial as well as Riverside counties. The threat is considerable, and at this point, you're talking the range of half an inch to an inch of rain. Some spots seeing up to 2 inches of rain. That's very isolated pockets of higher amounts. We're going to put more moisture on top of this in a matter of 24 hours. In fact, some of the rain bands will start moving in as early as tonight. We've already seen some significant flooding that's led to road closures. Expect more of that as we go forward in time, especially tomorrow. In fact, if you don't have to travel tomorrow, if you don't have to be out on the road, just stay put. You don't want to find yourself out on a flooded roadway, not knowing if there is a road left underneath that water or how deep the water is. There's a tropical storm warning out for Los Angeles, San Diego, where we saw Paul Goodlow, and hurricane watches, hurricane warnings, those extend down to Baja California. We've got coverage that will be throughout the day, throughout this weekend, and also on the ground in California. So we're talking Reynolds is out there. Jen Carfagno will be in Palm Springs, where we could see more than a year's worth of rainfall in just a matter of 2 days. And Paul Goodloe, he's in San Diego.
All right, Molly. And as Hurricane Hilary churns closer and closer to the West Coast, more than 28 million people are waking up under active flood alerts, a rare experience for most Californians. Meteorologist Paul Goodloe is on the ground in San Diego, and people are doing their best to prepare for those tropical conditions. Paul, all I'm doing is hoping that they really are preparing.
Well, that's what we're doing here, is trying to get the word out, because we know a lot of people are just waking up and first hearing about this. We had our first ever tropical storm watch issued yesterday here in Southern California. That was upgraded to a tropical storm warning overnight. Again, the first time ever, and last time we had a named system make landfall move through this area almost 84 years ago. So a unique experience for people who this is where they were born and raised. So they haven't been through this locally in most people's lifetime. And this area is very unique compared to other parts of the country. I want to bring in Chris Heiser. He's the executive director the emergency services here in San Diego. And thanks for joining us. We know you've been very, very busy, but let's talk about how unique this area is. We go from the beaches to urban areas. We have a big naval presence here, as well as we have mountains where not too long ago you had wildfires. So you have unique geography, as well as a unique population and unique threats to the people who live here. Could you speak on that?
Yes. And again, thanks for having us on. I think your emphasis on keeping the public informed. I started my day looking at the Weather Channel, appreciated the detail that was being put out, and really trying to explain to the public what makes this storm unique. That this time of year, we don't get rain that is this heavy in this short of a duration. And what we are going to see is widespread flooding. The high winds can also impact the effect that the storm is going to have. And we're concerned about power outages. So, I appreciated that 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain on the East Coast isn't significant. Here, the 12 inches of projected rain in the mountains, everything in Southern California is downstream from that. So we expect to see substantial flooding, probable flash floods, and power outages. So it's a real storm, and we've had the opportunity to be prepared and really push the message out to the public of take this seriously.
And do you think the public is getting this messaging? Because we've encountered a whole, wide range of reactions to, oh, yes, we know it's coming. Yeah, I'm not taking it seriously. This is the first I've heard of something tropical coming this way.
Well, I think that the community at all has done everything possible to get the message out. And I think it started days ago when a banner across my media identified this as a tropical storm coming. So I think the message is out there. The challenge is always, it's the weather. It can change. And there's two options. We can either be underprepared or overprepared. And the direction that the city's taking, the county's taking, the state of California is taking, and all the way up to FEMA is, we want to be overprepared. We want to be ready for the worst case scenario, and that's what we're preparing for. If it doesn't happen, if the storm changes direction, if it isn't as bad, that's okay. That's the best outcome. But if the storm comes as predicted, we need to be prepared for it. We are consistently reaching out to the public through social media, through all the medias that are possible to make sure the public's aware of it.
And people are preparing. We actually had a woman walk by asking us if we know where we can get sandbags locally. So if people have questions like that, trying to prepare before the first rains and winds start coming in throughout tonight, where can they go locally to get that information?
Well, I think, San Diego County is a large county. I'd suggest individuals reach out to their local jurisdiction, their local government, go to their web pages, and generally what you're going to find is web pages throughout the county will identify where resources like sandbags are. So your best bet is to go to your city's web page, see what's available, see what direction can be given.
All right, great information. Thank you so much for your time. That's Chris Heiser, Executive Director for the San Diego EMS. And I want to reiterate what he was saying is you want to prepare for the worst. You want to be over-prepared because there's nothing like needing something and not having it versus having it and not needing it. It's a world of difference, including even something like comfort, Lynette. If you perhaps were all slaves to our devices, if you haven't charged it up or have a battery and you lose power, even an hour or two without power, a lot of us feel, out of touch if we don't have our devices. So it's always got to be preparing. And yeah, devices, yes, that's a small concern. Flash flooding, heavy rain, that is a much greater concern and definitely life-threatening as we head through tonight, tomorrow, and into early Monday.
Right, Paul, you said it exactly. Make sure you over-prepare. What's the worst if you over-prepare, right? But if you under-prepare, the worst is sure to happen for sure. So thanks for that. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. We're going to step into virtual California. And here's what you could be looking like by tomorrow morning in Los Angeles. You're going to be dealing with some activity. We're definitely going to be dealing with severe thunderstorm warnings across the area possible, but we will have those flood watches in effect for tomorrow. And this is what we're dealing with. The reason why we'll have the flood watches is because we're going to have plenty of rain, 5 to 8 inches in some spots. We're going to see some 3 to 5 in a lot of areas, but look how this surge is on up to the north. Yeah, we're not out of the woods. Boise, you're going to be dealing with some flooding potential as well. There's the flood watch that we have here. All the areas here shaded in the green coloring. This extends on over towards the east. So Arizona, you're going to be in on this, as well as Utah before it's all said and done. Through tomorrow morning, it is likely down off towards the south that you are going to be in the thick of things, but it only gets worse as we head into your tomorrow morning, into your Monday morning as well. This is what we have. We do have that high risk for some flash flooding. This is something that we don't really see, especially in this part of the country. Across much of the country, it's very rare that we see this, but in Southern California, that's a no-no. The Weather Prediction Center hardly ever really issues this. High risk days, 83% when we're looking at the percent of yearly flood damages. The moderate risk days are 4%, so that's a huge jump. And when you're talking about the high risk days, at least 1 million in damages on 62% of those high risk days. So when we have those safety tips for you, we always want to tell you to go to the highest level of a building. Don't get caught in your vehicle. And if you do get stuck in your vehicle, make sure you do stay inside, because if you get out, yeah, the fast moving waters, they can sweep you right off your feet. Molly?
Thanks, Lynette. Let's turn toward another imminent threat in the southwest caused by Hurricane Hilary, and that is dangerous wind. Places like La Jolla, California can expect intensity of wind gusts to reach life-threatening rates this weekend. Peak speeds forecasted to max out around 50 miles per hour or potentially even up to 73 miles per hour as far as wind gusts go. So you can see a few of those surfers out there as the swells start to pick up as Hilary edges closer and closer and closer. So we want to keep this forecast right in front of you so you get an idea of when we're expecting the worst in Southern California, and that will be throughout the day tomorrow. Conditions going downhill from tomorrow morning all the way to tomorrow afternoon, and then by early Monday, this is well off to the north in portions of Nevada. That's the only good thing about this forecast we can say at this point is this is a quick moving storm. It's not going to sit and spin over the same areas, dropping a lot of rain with the really strong wind speeds. No, this is going to move in and it's going to move out very quickly. There's a wind advisory out for southern Arizona as well as Southern California. I do expect those likely to expand into some of our higher elevations as we get closer in time to Hilary moving in. Right now, winds, they're fairly calm. You've seen in Paul Goodlow, his live shots in San Diego this morning, that things are beautiful there right now. By tomorrow morning, tropical storm force winds moving into San Diego and expanding across Southern California. So I want to take you through the timing of when the strongest winds are expected. As mentioned, right now, it's very calm. By tomorrow afternoon, we could see some wind gusts, 50, 60 miles per hour. It's certainly within the realm of possibility as the center of what will be left of Hurricane Hilary will be moving over Southern California. Now, do we have a tropical storm? Do we have a tropical depression? We'll just have to wait and see how much this weekends over the cooler waters and, of course, the interaction with land as well. But as mentioned before, it's a quick moving storm. So by Monday, we're not dealing with those strong winds anymore. I will say, too, make sure you're charging your devices tonight, because by tomorrow we could have power outages, especially as you go up in elevation with the stronger winds. And it could be a while before power is restored because it has to be safe for crews to get out there there, the water has to recede too from any flash flooding that we see. We just looked at La Jolla and saw all of the swells that are starting to move in. There's a high risk of rip currents as we go into today, as we go into tomorrow, especially as the center of this storm gets closer and closer. And it's going to kick off some pretty big waves. It has been already in Cabo San Lucas, but by tomorrow afternoon, some of those larger waves arrive off the coast of California. Lynette?
All right, Molly, we're off to an eventful start here on Weekend Recharge, and there's still much more to come. You can keep up with the latest on this rare tropical threat to the West Coast with our streaming app and a special Hurricane Hilary live stream from live storm locations to updated wind speed measurements. This stream will help keep you safe if you're in the storm's path. Download today on Amazon Fire and Roku at streamtwc.com.
You can't stop a force of nature. This hurricane season, rely on one of your own. It's a fact. No other news network out there is trusted more than the Weather Channel.
This is epic!
Trusted to give you every advantage before the storm. Trusted to be there where and when you need us. Trusted to bring you every angle of the storm using landfall cams on our streaming TV app.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Because America doesn't trust hurricane season to just anyone.
Welcome back to Weekend Recharge. I'm meteorologist Paul Godot live in San Diego, California, technically on Coronado Island here. And the sun is shining here through some high, thin clouds. The San Diego Bay, pretty calm. See a guy on a jet ski out there. He's making the biggest wave that I see right now. But as we keep panning on towards the right, you see the Coronado Bridge. And that's way up there. Couple hundred feet off the deck of the bay here, and that could be a concern tomorrow as we have forecasted tropical storm Hilary move by. We could see winds gusting 50+ miles per hour. That could definitely potentially limit some of the traffic, maybe restricting how high the vehicle is that can cross over there. Again, the higher up you go, the stronger the winds will be. Now, we're here a stone's throw from the actual Pacific Ocean, but as we keep pushing eastward, we start seeing some mountains here in Southern California, here in San Diego, and maybe over 1,000 feet, some over 2,000 feet. Even stronger winds there. So that's another aspect we'll be dealing with in terms of threats across Southern California as forecasted tropical storm Hilary moving through here tomorrow. And right now, Hilary is still a powerful Category 3 hurricane. And here's the thing, we're not putting the brakes on Hilary. We're taking our foot off the gas. Right now, the fuel for this engine is all the warm water. It's moving closer to colder water. As Hilary is coming northward, we have that kind of current here of the colder water pushing southward across the west coast of the U.S. That will help weaken the storm, but nothing's going to stop the storm. And then in the atmosphere, we have all of this tropical moisture. So, yes, we've had quite a bit of winter rains here, but this is tropical rain. So our temperatures could be 10, 20 degrees warmer, which really starts to kind of grow the amount of moisture we can wring from the clouds. So it's the wind threat, but also it's that rain threat. 2 to 4 inches locally, maybe 4 to 8 or more inches farther east inland. And the farther east you go, Lynette, the more arid the environment is, so the more desert-like. So to even get 2 inches can cause problems. We had an inch or so of rain this morning, still watching some storms well east of here, causing current flooding And then we have the more tropical rains to come as we head through tonight and tomorrow. So we're unfortunately looking at the beginnings of a disaster in some areas if some of these rainfall kind of forecasts hold true. Again, this is certainly the calm before the storm, and we're trying to get the word out. We're still coming across people who have no idea that there is a hurricane or tropical storm coming here towards Southern California. Lynette?
All right, Paul. Yeah, definitely have to get the word out. And you mentioned the fact of the mountains. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because the mountains in California are absolutely beautiful. But the mountains, you could also deal with those landslides out there as well. You talk about those burn scars, and you start to see a disaster happening as you have that heavy rain that's going to continue to seep through the soil. And then with that, you're going to be dealing with the fact that you have lubrication going on here. So you're going to have that water form, and it acts as a lubricant for it. And then things start to take that tumble, right? The gravity comes into effect, and the earth just starts to move. And once that earth starts to move, there's no stopping it. And yeah, you're going to see the trees and rocks and boulders all start to move down, and it can move fast, very fast. We're looking at the winds in excess of 60 miles an hour for sure. And of course, the size is going to cover large areas. So again, when we talk about those landslides, they're definitely going to be a threat. We have mudslides, Molly, too, that are going to be a threat out there. Just the debris flows, because we're dealing with so much rain.
And think about how many wildfires we've had in the past 5 to 10 years. It takes a while to build that vegetation back up so that the hillsides are not as vulnerable. So even if you had a wildfire, maybe say 5 years ago close to you, you could still be at threat for some of those mudslides and some of those debris flows. Let's look at record August rainfall for a couple of different cities. So Las Vegas, Palm Springs, San Diego, Los Angeles. The column that has the record, that's the most rain that we've ever seen in the month of August. And then we look at our forecast, where we could eclipse that very easily. And not just we're talking about an entire month, we're talking about just a matter of a day or two. Heavy rain expected to move into Las Vegas, which, by the way, it already has been. We had some monsoonal moisture that moved in. We actually had a big lightning strike that took out the radar in Las Vegas. They likely can't repair it before more rain and more dicey weather starts to move in. I'm concerned about the flash flooding in the Las Vegas area. Heavy rain expected not only as we get through the rest of today, but even as we get to tomorrow, when we get really the surge of the moisture from Hilary moving in before it starts to taper off by the time we get to Monday. Even an inch or two in the Las Vegas area can make a big difference when it comes to flash flooding. Wind will also be a concern tomorrow afternoon. We're dealing with a monster when you can see the storm miles and miles above Earth's atmosphere.
The sheer scale of Hurricane Hilary was captured from the International Space Station yesterday.
And you can see it's coming up on Hilary right now, and how expansive that storm is. It is large, it is dangerous. It will weaken as it moves towards Southern California, but all of that moisture is coming with it, regardless of the intensity.
Exactly.
Well, it's 5:30 as Weekend Recharge rolls on. I'm Molly McCullum.
And I'm Lynette Charles. And we also do have Paul Goodlow. He's standing by in San Diego this morning. So, Paul, how's it been looking out there? It looks beautiful behind you now.
It looks beautiful. It feels beautiful. A gentle breeze from time to time. Nothing dramatic. Even looking at San Diego Bay here, I would even call this choppy. It's fairly smooth. I mean, we've seen paddle boarders out here this morning. That's how calm it is. But do not let the calm skies and the calm winds fool you. Things will be changing as we head throughout your Saturday. If you got outdoor plans, if you can get them done before, say, 5 o'clock, good for you. If you're perhaps watching us from eastern San Diego County into Imperial County, you want to perhaps get your outdoor plans done a little earlier, because we're already seeing some rain here, and that's quasi-associated with Hilary. If we can take a look at the satellite on the radar, we can kind of see the center still off in the Pacific, impacting Baja directly right now, but the steering flow is pulling that moisture a little farther north into the northern Baja, into Southern California. We've been dealing with some flash flood warnings, combination of some of the influence of Hilary as well as the monsoonal flow we see this time of the year, giving us some scattered showers. And that's what we have. Some scattered showers out there right now, but it's kind of pre-saturating the ground. And it doesn't take that much rain to do that in this part of the world. And then we have the whole massive Hilary coming in tonight and throughout the day tomorrow, then finally leaving, say, late tomorrow into early Monday. And it's going to be picking up in speed. But the rain, though, it's not going to be a few isolated storms we often see this time of the year where the monsoon will flow out in the deserts here in Southern California. This is going to be perhaps a wholesale flow or bands or waves of rain, perhaps trains of storms coming on through, giving us widespread rain. In some areas, we're going to have the east side of the mountains get some heavy rain as well, where the west, where you have the westerly flow coming in, especially with winter storms, they get a lot of rain. East side's drier, kind of the lee side of the mountains. But this time, even that lee side will get some heavy rain, which exposing a whole new geography or terrain to that potential flash flooding and debris slides as well. So we have a lot of concerns here for really the life-threatening inland freshwater flooding from the sky and then coming down the arroyos and washes and rivers and streams. It's going to be a big-time concern and a big-time change as we head over the next 24 to 36 hours. That's why we're under our first ever tropical storm warning here in San Diego and all of Southern California, talking 28 million Americans at least in harm's way. And then, Lynette, we start pushing this moisture farther north into areas of Nevada, even Arizona, but also Oregon and even Washington. So, yeah, we're going to have a long-range impact with this moisture coming from the tropics. Lynette?
All right, Paul. Yeah, I was talking about your shot, how it looks beautiful right now. I don't want that to lure people into a false sense of security because, yeah, Hilary is definitely coming for sure. So, Molly, we have Hilary that's on the way out there, but we're also dealing with some stuff happening here.
Coast-to-coast threats here. 50% chance of development for an area that we're watching near the Bahamas. And if you're thinking, okay, that looks awfully close to Florida, tropical downpours expected in Florida throughout the weekend. Where it goes beyond then, which it's headed towards the Gulf, that's where things, well, they get interesting.
Yeah, they get a little dicey there. One of the reasons is because we have such a high water temperatures there.
In many regards, they've been record-breaking this summer. There's our tropical wave. It's really this disorganized area of thunderstorms, and it's going to stay that way as it moves over southern Florida. That being said, some of these downpours, they're going to be intense as we go throughout the weekend. We already saw a lot of rain last week. We're putting more on top of that.
Exactly. Pockets possibly of about maybe 3 to 5 inches in some spots, but 2 to 3 inches, we will definitely see that in a lot of spots as well. We can see those thunderstorms coming up through Orlando. And not the best time to be at the theme park for sure.
It's always tough in the summertime, right? You expect the rain, you expect the heat. Speaking of the heat, the water temperatures in the Gulf, they are ripe for tropical development. You also have to look at the upper level winds in the Gulf. A lot of times, at least leading up to here, they're not really conducive, but we're getting into the time of year where anything that gets into the Gulf can really take off very quickly.
Exactly, and that's what we're watching, that it runs out of real estate, but again, it could blow up right before it reaches the coast of Texas, so we definitely have to keep our eyes peeled.
At very least, beneficial rain for South Texas.
The looming flood threat is sparking considerable concern in California.
Jasmine Veal with our CBS partners at KCAL has a closer look at the mood in inland communities.
I'm here at Lytle Creek, and you can see the water is already flowing pretty swiftly. This is where firefighters have had to make swift water rescues in the past during big storms, and now they are preparing for what could come in the next few days.
I'm nervous.
Veronica Jones is watching Hilary make its way north, waiting to see its impact here locally.
This is some weird weather for this Southern California.
She and her friend Rena Castro spent the day at Lytle Creek in the sun Friday, knowing this area will look very different in a matter of days.
Well, you see what it looked like now. This is nothing compared to what it's going to look like. It's nothing. The water comes all the way up here.
So we're trying to get as much as this nice, water before Hurricane Hilary.
Jones lives in Rialto, in a neighborhood she says is prone to flooding.
And where I live at, the sandbags are a mess.
Grab as many sandbags as you need. Our stations have restocked with plenty of sand.
San Bernardino County firefighters at Station 79 in Fontana have sand and bags ready for anyone who needs them before the storm that could cause flash flooding. Lessons hopefully learned during a very wet winter, like in Lytle Creek.
We've had many rescues, especially when we get heavy rain, heavy downpours. It doesn't take much water for you to get stranded.
In case the weather takes a turn for the worse, San Bernardino County Public Works crews are staging equipment and put up these warning signs around recent burn areas.
So the El Dorado burn area, Oak Glen, Forest Falls, that area over there will get extra attention.
Brendan Biggs, director of San Bernardino County Public Works, says they have boots on the ground, but also cameras that they monitor remotely at all times. Officials say they are concerned many people may be caught off guard with this storm.
And we're really not used to seeing, these tropical storms come through, middle of August. We're used to the high heat.
San Bernardino County officials are advising people to sign up for their telephone emergency notification system, or TENS, to be able to receive those alerts, those text messages, and critical updates like evacuation orders. Here in Fontana, Jasmine Veal, KCAL News.
And having a way to get those alerts is so important when things can change so quickly. A lot of water will be moving into areas that are just not accustomed to seeing this amount of rainfall. We could have a zone 5 to 8 inches of rain that's just outside of LA, just outside of San Diego. When you go up in elevation, could we see a foot of rain in places? It's certainly possible. Anytime you have that topography, that change in terrain, it can squeeze out moisture, it can enhance the rainfall, and then you also have to worry about landslides and mudslides, especially where we have the burn scars. Flood watches out Southern California, Las Vegas, you're included in that. In fact, a majority of the state of Nevada, even southern Idaho, southern Oregon. We're expecting the remnants of Hilary to eventually move by Monday. Likely flash flooding ongoing in portions of Southern California today. Then we turn our attention to tomorrow, where there is a high risk of flash flooding. These outlooks are issued by the Weather Prediction Center, and they only issue these high-risk days about 16 days out of the year, so they're very rare. And it's even more uncommon to see one in Southern California. When we talk about high-risk flash flooding days, at least $1 million in damages occur on 62% of those high-risk days. So we're talking a big deal here. And of course, fatalities often occur on those high-risk days. The water can be very dangerous. People often underestimate the power of water. Let's talk about what happens when we bring flash flooding into the desert. And this is going to be a concern for many areas. The rain accumulates, the soil doesn't absorb the water as fast. In many cases, it just runs off. We're bringing topography, varied topography into play, and that enhances the runoff. Topography also enhances the rainfall, so you kind of have a double-edged sword there. When it comes to flooding, I'd say the biggest concern is people getting trapped in their cars. We see it over and over again in flood threats. So you don't want to get caught in your vehicle. Not only is it a big danger to you, it's a huge danger to those who have to go and rescue you. So Lynette, having a plan, today is your last day to plan and your last day to prepare, and having a plan can make all the difference.
Exactly, Molly. You said it for sure. In terms of having that plan for what's going to be happening with Hilary and the rain department, the wind department, it's going to be a threat for sure. We can see these areas here shaded in the purple coloring. This is a wind advisory. This wind advisory is tomorrow through Monday, and it is for portions of California, but also portions of Arizona. So yeah, this system is going to spread off towards the east, but also it's going to move on off to the north as well. In terms of the winds right now, not too bad. Palm Springs, we're seeing a sustained wind at about 18 miles an hour, but we will really start to tap into that wind field, tropical storm force winds as we go into your Sunday morning. San Diego, you will be in on this. So we're talking about winds up to about 39 to 73 miles an hour. As we put the wind gust forecast into motion, you'll start to see these winds ramp up. Yuma, 50 to 60 miles an hour as we head into tomorrow afternoon around 1 o'clock. And as we go in through the evening, we're not quite done yet. Look what's happening around Lake Havasu City, 40 to 50 mile an hour winds there. And again, San Diego, you're about 30 to 35 mile an hour winds. So it is going to be a rough go of it. And this continues as we head into your Monday as well. Keep it tuned to the Weather Channel.
Welcome back to Weekend Recharge. I'm meteorologist Paul Goodlow coming to you live from Coronado Island, San Diego, California. Yes, beautiful San Diego. We're under a tropical storm warning along with 28 other million Americans here in Southern California. First time ever in terms of our recorded history of having these types of warnings with our National Weather Service. And we had one issued here in Southern California. That comes in the heels of having our first ever tropical storm watch issued yesterday for the same area. And Southern California has that tropical threat. But now this morning, it's the calm before the storm. We're seeing some jet skiers out here in San Diego Bay, people out here enjoying their time outdoors. This part of Southern California, people love to be outdoors because the weather, especially in the summertime, is so conducive for this, especially so close to the coast as well. Off in the distance, we have Petco Park, where the San Diego Padres play. They have a series going on with the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's now a doubleheader tonight or this afternoon because tomorrow's game was pushed into this afternoon because of the rain and wind coming in, with now Hurricane Hilary forecast to become a tropical storm as it makes landfall and moves across the Baja into Southern California as we head throughout the day on Sunday. So yes, we do expect that center, and the National Hurricane Center is still forecasting this to be a tropical storm as it comes into Southern California. So while the wind threat is there, an even higher threat is that rain threat. 2-4 inches, most areas of the country, that's a really, really rainy day. In this part of the country, it could be catastrophic in terms of resulting flooding from that rain. And 2 to 4 is kind of how we're entering the area. We could see some areas ring out, Molly, maybe 2 or 3 times that type of rainfall. Certainly life-threatening rainfall and flooding is a big concern. We should have the rain push out into Monday, but the flooding, as we know, might linger for a couple of days after that. So, Molly, we try to keep the word out, trying to get people prepared to prepare for the worst that Hilary has coming this way. And it's starting later on today here in Southern California. Molly?
It is. As soon as those first couple bands start to move in, things will go downhill pretty quickly. Thank you, Paul, there in San Diego. What I'm really concerned about, too, is that there's no really true experience for a tropical system like this in Southern California. I think the last time we had a tropical storm that made landfall in Southern California was back in 1939. So it's been quite some time. And I think what's really going to catch people by surprise is the rainfall rates. These will be true tropical downpours. You think 5 to 8 inches of rain, but that's going to happen in a matter of 24, maybe 36 hours that we see that much rainfall. So you have to have pretty impressive rainfall rates to get that amount of rain in a short duration of time. Flood watch is out Southern California. Most of the state of Nevada, Las Vegas already has flooding from some of the monsoon moisture. In fact, there was a thunderstorm, a lightning strike that took out the Las Vegas radar yesterday. And now we're going to put more tropical moisture on top of the rain that we've already seen in Southern California over towards the Vegas area. Likely flash flooding today. I'm more concerned about the potential for tomorrow with that high risk of flash flooding for Southern California up towards the higher elevations. Not only are we concerned about the rain and the enhanced rainfall rates and amounts, but also the wind, as this is a tropical system that's going to be moving in. It will have wind with it, although water is our biggest concern. Most of the moisture starts to move in the first part of tomorrow, especially as we get into tomorrow afternoon. Check out all of that rain, even extending through later in the evening on Sunday. And then we get to Monday. This is a fast-moving storm, Lynette. So I'd say that's really the good news with this, is it's going to be in and it's going to be out within about 24 hours. It's going to be moving on. Yeah. But in that time frame, the flooding is just going to be top of mind.
It is top of mind. So we had that out in the Pacific, and then we're watching something on the other side, right? Yeah, let's talk about that, as we do have plenty of tropical downpours that we're going to be talking about because of this system right here. So right now, it's kind of disorganized. It's a disturbance, a wave, if you will. This will continue to work its way on off into the Gulf of Mexico. So by next week, this is what we're really going to be talking about. Definitely dealing with some very warm waters. In fact, right now, again, things just disorganized. We have some thunderstorms. We have some lightning. happening around Southern California right now. This is all around Bahamas, and this is going to continue to spin into the peninsula of Florida. So Tampa, West Palm, you're going to be getting in on some activity as we go through the rest of today. We're also going to see this as we go into your Sunday as well. These thunderstorms will be a little bit on the feisty side of things, but we're going to watch for more rain to come into this area. We will have pockets of maybe about 3 to 5 inches before it's said and done, 2 to 3, but all eyes really happening about what's going to be happening into the Gulf, and we're going to have to watch for some tropical development with this. And if this does not develop into anything tropical, then this will be very beneficial for the Gulf Coast states. We'll be back.
Welcome back into Weekend Recharge as we continue to watch Hurricane Hilary and the potential impacts for Southern California over to Las Vegas, Nevada, you name it. The flooding risk is going to be the biggest and the biggest concern that we watch. Yes, we will have winds too, but the flooding risk will be the highest. 5 to 8 inches of rain possible in Southern California. If you're watching from the East Coast, you're thinking that's really not that much. You know, as far as a tropical system, that is a ton of rain for Southern California and will cause a lot of problems, including life-threatening flash flooding. The good news about this storm is that it is moving quickly. In fact, it will start to move quicker as it moves into Southern California. It will also be weakening. Right now, it's a Category 3 hurricane. By the time it moves into Southern California, we're talking tropical storm, maybe even perhaps a tropical depression. But the intensity of this, the category, doesn't really matter at this point because the impacts will remain the same. A lot of tropical moisture moving into Southern California in a place that is not accustomed to seeing this much rain in a short duration of time and really not used to seeing tropical threats, right? We already have ongoing flooding in portions of Southern California. This is from more monsoon moisture. We'll start to see the outer bands of Hilary moving in later tonight. Already a flash flood warning. This is for Imperial and Riverside counties until 11:45 local time. The I-10 corridor is included in that. More rain moves in tonight. There's already several road closures because of the ongoing flooding. Tropical storm warnings out for Los Angeles, a lot of Southern California, including San Diego. We also have a high risk of rip currents, a lot of swells moving in, a lot of rough surf with the center of this tropical system moving in. Flood watches out, likely flash flooding again. That is going to be our primary concern and a high risk of flash flooding for tomorrow. Our team of meteorologists are bringing you the latest on Hurricane Hilary all through the weekend. Stay up to date around the clock by downloading our app on Amazon Fire and Roku at streamtwc.com.